possible that the elites are hiding secrets bigger than we ever dared to imagine? Yes! Hello there, you 6.3 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining us on this voyage towards truth and freedom. We must cultivate and nurture the light within so that the truth that is evident can be realized within and without. Turn on the notification bell right now so that you don't miss these daily bulletins. We work hard to make them for you. Without you, we are nothing. Subscribe right now because there's content every single day. Have you noticed that censorship has radically increased? That conversations that used to be ordinary and innocuous are suddenly being censored. The meaning of words is changing. They're flipping our reality all around us, trying to befuddle and bemuse us so we can't confidently communicate with one another. I had a conversation with Graham Hancock, author, archaeologist, and TV presenter about arcane civilizations, and in particular, why is it that mainstream archaeology and the mainstream media are so keen to shut down conversations about subjects that just 10, 20 years ago would have seemed commonplace? Why are they trying to prevent us talking about the origins of our species, varying theories? How are we going to evolve and learn more if we don't include peripheral dissenting voices? What happens if we don't even have the right to be wrong? Imagine, for example, that Graham Hancock's wrong and there wasn't a cataclysmic event that wiped out a civilization. Oh, okay then, that's just a theory that was wrong. Have a look at this conversation. You're going to love it. It's fantastic. Stay to the very end. Let me know in the comments what questions you'd like to have seen asked. Remember, the entire conversation is up on Rumble and also available as a podcast.
Were you not upset, like, your wife's Xanthe, she's a woman of colour. What about when they're saying you're racist? Didn't that make you think, why don't you fuck off?
Yeah, it did make me think, why don't you fuck off? You fucking deceitful liars. You know, this is where I speak of a propaganda war, because it's as though they selected certain key words. If we can apply these key words, if enough people repeat these key words, then people won't read any of Hancock's work or look at his series. And those key words included saying that my work supports white supremacy, that it encourages racism, that it's misogynistic, and that it's anti-Semitic. All of those phrases were applied to my series. I don't understand why.
No, why?
Except to say.
I'm against all those things.
If we stick these labels enough, and if enough people repeat these labels, then people say, we won't bother reading Hancock because he's a racist and a white supremacist. And that seemed to be the idea. That's propaganda. That's not real scientific debate that was going on there. So
you're right, because archaeology in particular could afford a spirit of amateurism. Like my understanding, like from people like Sheldrake and stuff, is that that even much botany and biology emerged out of like priest class. It was almost an amateur pursuit of religious folk. And of course, there's a place for experts, as you say with your pilot analogy. Of course, you need expertise, but what you don't need is technocracy and aristocracy, a institutionalized elite class that's saying we're the only people that are allowed to discuss this. You see it in the media all the time. We're spoken to like we are stupid, that we are cast in the role of subjugates, of children. That's how the discourse takes place. Have a look at that Fauci clip. Have a look at the sort of like the orthodox, what do I want to say, Pharisee-like contempt that is dispatched by people in positions of scientific authority. Of course, if you're in a position of scientific authority, you have scientific authority. That's where it ends. It's not authority to start telling people what to do, shut shit down. Like it starts to, what they appear to do is demark a territory where the expertise is difficult to dispute, and then use that as a point of departure for applicable authority, despotism, and tyranny. And once you start saying, hey, maybe the past isn't what we think is, should we look at some new ideas? It's always been the case that advancing and emergent ideas come from the periphery, because the establishment has a vested interest in containing its personal set of hermeneutics, its own personal epistemology. It guards it, for that is the source of its power. Once you break open the tabernacle and start saying, hey, why don't we all have a look around? How about we all have our own relationship with God? How about we all, like, that doesn't mean you're going to let some nitwit be in charge of an aeroplane or a pandemic response, but you do also want to know, are the people in charge of this response financially invested in particular outcomes? Definitely. Are we getting all of the available information? Is the media unbiased? Are they allowing all potential voices to participate in this conversation? Oddly, for all of their talk of diversity, they seem pretty interested in exclusivity and in particular exclusion. And so I suppose, like, your particular case demonstrates what these forces will do when a new emergent voice is heard and becomes popular, even if it seems odd to use phrases like anti-Semitism, misogyny, and it don't make sense even.
The racism thing really hurt me at the personal level, because as you rightly say, Santhe is a woman of colour. She's from South Indian origin, born in Malaysia. We have mixed race children. And to be publicly labelled as a racist, I have to confess that really hurt me. It wounded me deeply, and I couldn't get why that was being flung at me, except that it would be a useful way to turn people off my work. And that's the propaganda aspect of this. That I realise that I am involved in a propaganda war, and that needs to be taken seriously if I'm going to get my point of view across. And the other thing is, and we'll come on to this Amazon issue. So archaeologists claim, or archaeology as an institution claims, that they know enough about the past to rule out completely any possibility of any kind of thing that we would call a civilization during the Ice Age. But there's a real problem with that, because archaeology has only investigated tiny areas of the world. A great deal of archaeology that's done is done because a road or a dam is being built. And archaeologists are called in to make sure that there's nothing of historical interest in there. So it's random in that sense, the areas that they're looking at. Then, most important to me, is that issue of sea level rise at the end of the Ice Age. That 400-foot rise in sea level that occurred when the Ice Age came to an end. The 27 million square kilometers of continental shelves that were swallowed up by the sea at that time, which have hardly been investigated by archaeology. There is some marine archaeology. They're even beginning now, just in the last few years, to look at the continental shelves. And that's when the whole notion of Doggerland was discovered, that Britain was joined to the continent and that there were people there.
Steady.
But most...
We did that Brexit once.
Yes.
And we'll do it again if we have to.
Even if it takes an Ice Age. Yeah, so the main focus of marine archaeology is on shipwrecks from relatively recent history. There needs to be a much more comprehensive survey of the continental shelves before we can write off the possibility of a civilization destroyed in that cataclysm. And it's not only the continental shelves. Then you've got the 9 million square kilometers of the Sahara Desert. We know for sure that there were periods during the Ice Age when the Sahara was rich and fertile. Huge river systems ran through it. There were lakes in the Sahara. And yet, because it's remote, because it's very expensive to operate there, very little archaeology has been done in the Sahara. So that's another 9 million square kilometers of the Earth's surface that archaeology really doesn't know a lot about. And then there's the Amazon rainforest. Now, it used to be about 7 million square kilometers, but these horrific clearances that have been taking place in the Amazon have brought it down to closer to 5 to 6 million square kilometers that are still untouched under canopy rainforest. This is another area where only very minimal archaeology has been done. And for archaeology to claim that it knows everything about our past while it's not investigated the continental shelves, it's not investigated the Sahara Desert, and it's not investigated the Amazon rainforest, is a terrible oversight, in my view, particularly since, I repeat, I'm not against individual archaeologists. I'm against the institution. And there are archaeologists now working with a technology called LiDAR, light imaging and detecting and ranging, which you fly a plane over the area that you want to look at, and it can look down through the canopy of the Amazon rainforest, and it can see what's underneath it. And what they're finding is evidence of enormous cities that existed in the Amazon. Oddly enough, those cities were actually spoken about by a Spanish traveler in the late 1500s. Why did they vanish? Because the Spanish brought with them smallpox. And the smallpox completely destroyed the populations of the Amazon. But at one time, it was a flourishing, highly populated area. Secondly, they were creating enormous sacred constructions, things that we would call henges today, like Avebury Henge, that deep circular trench that surrounds Avebury. In the Amazon, the LiDAR technology is finding dozens and dozens of examples of these. enormous henges. Some of them are circular, some of them are square, some of them enclose a circle within a square. It's all very geometrical. It's most unexpected in the Amazon, and it's very, very, very old. Been detected by LiDAR. They've been physically examined in places that have been already cleared of rainforest. They definitely exist. They're definitely old. And what's needed now is a much more thorough investigation of the Amazon rainforest itself by archaeology, if archaeology wishes to continue to claim that it knows everything about the human past.
It's analogous in many ways to fields that I pay more attention to myself, where there is an assumption that where there has been no exploration or observation, nothing exists.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. Have you looked yet?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It is there's Brian Cox, who's someone I actually really like. He's an atheist and stuff. Like, he said, if you can't measure it, it isn't there. And I felt like, but surely that means that we are limiting all potential realities to the realities that can be contained by sensory instruments that by their nature must be limited.
Yeah, literally to weighing, measuring, and counting.
Yes.
Reality is confined to what we can weigh, measure, and count. That is largely the position of mainstream science in this area. This is where Rupert Sheldrake gets himself into so much trouble, because you can't weigh, measure, and count telepathy, for example. You can do scientific experiments concerning it, and Rupert has done so. His work is scientifically rigorous, but it's dismissed automatically because most scientists say, of course there's no such thing as telepathy. The brain is the generator of all consciousness, and it's limited to our bodies, and it cannot communicate with other brains without words or language in between.
It's necessarily speculative to include Carl Sagan's beautiful idea that everything ever said is still reverberating limitlessly in space, that TV broadcasts in the 1940s emanate still there amidst the limitless. And if you can accept that vibration operates in that way and there is a vibrational quality to consciousness, the idea that consciousness could be intercommunicative, speculatively at least, that seems plausible. But within this idea that only that which can be measured can be real is the ridiculous assumption that by some extraordinary coincidence we have been endowed with all potential instruments for discerning all potential realities, when even most basic mainstream cosmology includes the idea of infinity and eternity. Wouldn't it be an extraordinary coincidence that on one hand you accept the infinite, and on the other hand you say, but we have got all of the necessary instruments to evaluate the infinite? That is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. It's true arrogance and hubris. I've noticed it in the cherry picking of my work that critics do. I have, from time to time, I think it might take up 2 pages in America Before, a book I published in 2019, and maybe a page or 2 in other earlier books, where I've speculated, is this lost civilization that I'm looking for, did they have other ways of manipulating matter that we don't have? Should I perhaps take seriously the Egyptian traditions of ancient Egyptian traditions of priests chanting and raising blocks into the air? Should I take that seriously? And I actually think I should take that seriously, because I've climbed the Great Pyramid 5 times, and it's an incredibly difficult, impossible monument to explain. Everything about it is just mind-blowing. And the notion that huge long ramps, which sloping at 10 degrees, that teams of people pulled 20, 30, 70-ton blocks up and deposited them inside the Great Pyramid above the King's Chamber at about 300 feet above the ground. I think that the conventional method of explaining that is very limited, and I think we should be open to the possibility that we are not the masters of everything that human beings can do, and that it is possible that people did things in a different way in the past, that telekinesis may have been a real power. Now, the point I want to make is that in my work, that is a tiny fraction of 1% of what I write, and I label it from the beginning as speculation. But when archaeologists critique my work, that's what they focus on. Hancock believes in telepathy and telekinesis. He's obviously a lunatic. Once again, we're dealing with propaganda, and once again, we're dealing with a fixed paradigm about what reality is.
Racist Hancock believes that mind Lego made Egypt. It's like what they'll do, even with a conversation like this one, they'll find the bits that are like, what that does is it inhibits the spirit of mental adventure.
Yeah.
The commodity of imagination is our great gift. That all of the wonders of the world come via the human imagination. That it's a gift that is equally endowed upon us all. That we might all embark on these ideas. What they want to do is foreclose. No, you're not an expert. Where are you from? Who do you think you are? Shut your mouth. Where'd you get that accent? Well, they'll find a reason to shut you down. They'll find a reason to stop you investigating. Why? Because establishment interests have to be observed.
Yeah.
People that say that no change is necessary are people that benefit from things saying the same. And it's in particular in your work, because it seems odd to me that sort of it's not whimsical, because it couldn't be more important where human beings come from. I'm obviously not being dismissive of your work, but it's not like your field is directly about how power structures should be organized. It's not like that your work is that make Pfizer accountable for their profits in the last couple of years, or did the CIA kill JFK? Like, it's not like you're going into territory where it's like, whoa, what's this dude saying? It's like fascinating musings about the great mystery of humankind.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They label my work as a conspiracy theorist. That conspiracy theorists, Graham, I don't know what conspiracy theory I'm part of. I don't have any conspiracy theory. I don't even think archaeologists are in a conspiracy. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think once you commit to a particular profession, you commit to the ruling paradigm of that profession. And that's what's happening. It's not like we're hiding the truth. I don't think archaeology is hiding the truth about our past. I just think they're not looking in the right places, and they haven't looked enough to make dominant statements about the past. That's the view that I have on that. So this is another one of those key phrases in our society that can be applied without any effort or energy on the part of the person applying them, with complete idleness. Just call him a conspiracy theorist. Just call him a racist. Just call him a white supremacist. Call him an anti-Semite, and we'll turn people off his work right away. This is the problem that we're dealing with, and it's a sinister trend in our society that is not limited to the field that I work in. It's right across our society now. And while it is often claimed that we live in the era of great freedom, I'm not sure that we do. I think we live in an era of very sophisticated mind control. I'm not sure how much planning there is behind that. I'm not certain how much coordination there is behind that, but the tools and the techniques are available, and propaganda is one of those tools and techniques to shut down alternative narratives, that there must be one controlling narrative that runs our society, and that anything that questions that must be shut down, and any dirty trick that can be deployed to question that will be deployed.
Well, if you enjoyed that conversation, let me know in the comments. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share this conversation with your friends. Let us know what other guests you'd like to see on our show. Watch the whole thing over on Rumble and become a member of our community to get access to my stand-up special, Brandemic. Or you can buy it for a one-off $20 fee. If you enjoyed this video, watch either of these, but more important than any of that stuff is that you please stay free.